Hello and welcome to the show. We start this week's GTA 5 Downhill Chaos with the McLaren F1 and of course with the hiker walking through shot. That is almost obligatory now for cars. At the top of here, McLaren F1 does a really rather decent flamethrower before we set off. Now this car is rather too powerful for its own good. When it comes to going down chiliad, you can see setting off, if you just mash the throttle, it spins the wheels like crazy. There is a humongous amount of speed in the McLaren. Things start going a little bit wrong. Amazingly, just about managed to recover it. Turn it a little too soon as well. Get a bit on two wheels. Still, everything was pointing in the right direction, which I was quite surprised about. I then get caught out by the power eventually, just trying to use a little bit too much throttle. We spin the wheels up across the bumpy terrain and then can't get stopped, and then the McLaren is going to come to a rest upside down. It was quite incredible how much that got away with on the opening run. The next time out though, not quite so lucky. Got it stuck down the side. Couldn't quite recover the vehicle. It was trying to kind of land the jump neatly and avoid clonking into the hikers, and in doing so sort of dropped a wheel off the edge, couldn't recover it. I mean, the car didn't go tumbling down the mountain as much as take a giant shortcut, so yeah, I mean, it survived, but that's not quite where you want to be. As I got towards the bottom of the course, I may have booted the throttle like I would normally with any other car. The thing is, this picks up speed so quickly that down there you're suddenly going far too fast for the terrain, and well, that jump has caused many a high-speed accident. This time I was kind of having an accident before I actually got to the jump. So yeah, it's very few cars. A few have done it though. They're the very, very fastest vehicles. You can get in quite a lot of trouble trying to carry a little too much or trying to get on the throttle a little too soon. When the McLaren did start to roll, it did a pretty good job of going for a spectacular, very spectacular tumble. The brakes were damn good on this car, despite it flying through the air. For the brief seconds that the wheels were on the ground, it did almost get under control before, you know, it kept on going. Yeah, it's... if it starts tumbling, it tends to go in quite a spectacular way. And when you do have a crash with this car, it tends to be at a really rather high speed. So yeah, they are relatively spectacular crashes. You don't really get small crashes with the McLaren F1 as is... as is shown here. It all went a little bit wrong and got fired off. Don't see very many cars go down this part of the course. Quite an unusual place to get the car sort of launched down the mountainside. I do get it under control though. I was quite pleased having managed to control that one. This jump, the landing of this jump, has caused a few problems for vehicles in the past, and on the most part the McLaren was okay, but on this attempt, if you get it a little bit too wrong, you have kind of two options. You either try and take the jump a little bit faster, so you clear the rough landing bit, or you take it a little slower. I end up in the middle, and yeah, we bounced off the floor and ran out wide. This final of the big jumps I took with too much speed, and that's what's going to happen. The car kind of just bounces up in the air ever so slightly, and as the road dips away and curves away, you end up in the rock face, and that scoops the car up for a rather large roll. We do get a little bit bounced up this time around. I keep it on the road, but I can't quite get it turned, and yeah, we end up going for a spin and a tip and a tumble and a roll down the mountain on your roof. Not quite what you want to be doing. As I said, rolls pretty well this one. We do lose one of the little kind of backside panels. This is a really, really high detail mod. It's a fantastic looking mod, and so on. After a little while, did get a clean run with this car. As I said, it's a ridiculously fast vehicle, this one. It's a little too powerful, in all honesty, for going down chiliad. There is so much acceleration, it just wants to spin the wheels. I mean, down here we spend a huge amount of time in the air, so we only get up to about 80 miles an hour because it accelerates to that speed so quick when we hit the car. It's not really even a jump down there, it's a small bump, but you hit it so fast with this car, you spend a lot of time in the air. It is quite a nice agile car. It gets around sort of the hairpin and around these slower speed turns relatively well. We do get big wheel spin trying to put all of the power down. If you are careful with the car though, it tends to do okay on the bumps. It's not terrible, certainly around here. We've seen quite a few vehicles having problems being bounced around on that section, and there was no such real concerns with this. As I said, as you saw, we did have an issue down here. That time though, I was just that little bit faster. It's a very fine line between going too quick for the corner and just fast enough to jump over the nasty landing spot, but that time there was just what you want to be doing. I get a huge two-wheeled moment towards the end, still trying to carry as much speed as I could. You could get away with running through the bushes as well, on the most part, with this car. There wasn't too much of a problem. Big bumps around the second to last corner, but that wasn't really any huge fear for the McLaren, and then a burst of speed across the line, and then we clonk a tree. Having finished, yeah, once you could unleash all of the power in this car, there was an awful lot of speed. We very nearly tumbled off this kind of little ledge. Just about managed to save it. Yeah, very quick car, and actually dealt with the bumps very well for a supercar. However, the speed, perhaps, or the power, I should say, perhaps a little bit of its downfall around this dirt track. It just simply didn't have that much traction. Up next, we have got the Lotus Exige, the V6. I was, again, this is another car that was expecting to go relatively quick, along with the McLaren. This one here, perhaps not as much power and as speed and so on, but was hoping that, well, it's a Lotus. You know, you hope that this is going to be good around the corners, and certainly the Exige was a good car. Around these turns, yes, certainly not the same brutal acceleration that we got with the McLaren, and things were going relatively well on this opening run. Made it through the whole first section with no real dramas, got it stopped and turned for the next corner, still no real problems, and then I turn in a fraction too soon, we get a big two-wheeled moment, and yeah, sort of half roll and spin the car across some rocks. Now that is... It's quite a common place to have big two-wheel moments with high-grip cars. The Voltic will do it, and sure enough, this was having similar issues. Another fairly common problem with a little too late on the brakes, just asking slightly too much of the Exige, and running the wall will often cause a big roll down there. This time, not quite as big a sort of two-wheeled moment, but it was enough to drag me out wide, and in going out wide, you kind of find the rocks get spun around and bounced out. Almost had a big twitch under braking, just about controlled the first bit, but we got bounced around through the next corner, and in doing so, the speed I was carrying, I couldn't keep the car on the road. Often, as I said many times with this, often you'll hit a bump one corner, and it could be sort of two corners down the line where you actually eventually fall off the road. It's just being out of position for one corner can cause quite a lot of problems. I thought I'd taken the jump. I thought I was carrying good speed, taking the jump right, but we just got a little twisted on the landing, and then couldn't get the car stopped for the next turn. This one, hiker's in the way of my landing zone, and that was enough to cause the Lotus to roll. And once it started rolling again, much like the McLaren, if this thing started rolling, it did like to keep on going. There were some pretty spectacular tumbles from the Exige. If it started going, slightly less likely to roll over though than the McLaren. I think it's just not got the same. It wasn't going at the same speed through quite a lot of the parts of the course. Didn't take too long really to get a clean run with this car. As I said at the start, you know, the Exige is a great handling vehicle, and on here it is equally a very, very good car to drive. It's got good brakes. You can really chuck it through the turns. It is perhaps a little twitchy. For my personal liking, it is a little bit twitchy across these bumps. I mean, of course, that's to be expected when you're taking a sports car down an incredibly rough course, but the likes of the McLaren F1, that was okay. That didn't have any of those problems. Despite it like spinning up its wheels, this one here, you didn't really get any wheel spin, but it was, yeah, quite a twitchy car across some of these bumps. You can see down here, the back end is very, very snappy on this vehicle, so you had to be careful around that, especially with the size of some of the bumps. Could cause some issues. This time we are across the first of the large jumps quite nice and cleanly. Again, though, the back end is wanting to just step out of line a little bit. A decent acceleration, of course, down here, and it did very well on the landing. We're carrying quite a lot of speed on this particular run. We fire it down this side road, gets it through the bushes surprisingly well. A big bump on the approach, managed to get the car slowed down somehow. I thought that was going off the course, but the brakes were very, very good. We did get it slowed down, launch the car across the line, just clip off the hillside there, and we come to a rest. Yeah, you know, it's as good a handling as you would expect an Exige to be. You just got to watch out for the bumps, or for the twitchiness across the bumps. Still though, considering what the car is, it did do a pretty damn good job of surviving down the course. And again, you know, the damage done to the vehicle, most of that was after crossing the line. And to finish, well, sticking with the British theme, we have got a Bentley, the Bentley Mulsanne, rather large car, this one. Certainly a bit of a departure. Does a pretty damn good flamethrower, though. Give it credit for that. Yeah, certainly a departure from the supercar and the sports car that have gone before. And in hindsight, I think I should have probably driven the Bentley first. Been kind of spoilt by the McLaren and the Lotus with their great brakes and their great handling. This isn't a McLaren or a Lotus. No. It doesn't stop particularly well, doesn't get turned particularly well. It's not too bad for the size of car it is. And it likes to roll over at that turn. I'm not quite sure why it likes to go there. I mean, we saw the Exige having a little bit of problem. This one was actually quite a lot worse through that corner. Everywhere else, funnily enough, it actually wasn't that bad. Just that particular turn, the Bentley really liked to roll over. We scare some hikers as we go flying past them, and then we're not stopping. Through this next kind of section down there, it is such a narrow bit that if you get it a little bit wrong in a car like this that doesn't have good brakes and is giant, you just don't have time to sort it out, and then you're going to go falling down chiliad. I had managed to get it on its wheels, and I was trying to control it. I'm full on the brakes here. I was trying the handbrake and everything. I just couldn't get it to stop going downhill. And now we have seen that with some cars. That just emphasises how dodgy the brakes are on the Bentley. It does eventually get stopped. You saw how long it took going downhill. It's, yeah, not an easy car to get slowed down. And equally, if things do go wrong, they tend to go pretty badly wrong. It's such a tame roll, that one. It's such a low speed roll as well. We kind of ambled about before falling off the road, and still it would find a way of going upside down. I may have left it too late on the brakes, and then we're going to go for another. All of these British cars really liked going for very big tumbles. I was expecting the car to explode here, and it didn't. It was amazing, the punishment it took with some very heavy hits and rolls. It didn't explode the car, but it was enough to actually break it. The Bentley, you can see, is smoking. No longer works from all of that. It's actually very rare that we have a car die and a car stop functioning when it hasn't exploded. It's not very often on this course. Big two-wheeled moment coming into the braking zone there was never likely to end well, and off goes the Bentley once more. It's as I said, once things go wrong with this car, you're not really going to stop it. There's just sort of so much mass to it, and the brakes aren't particularly good that, yeah, it's going to keep going. I think perhaps the weight is part of what the problem was with causing it to roll over. Yeah, probably a little bit more top-heavy than the likes of the Lotus and so on. This time it wasn't rolls. We did many 360s. I don't know how many, quite a lot. We do again eventually come to rest. This time the car was working, but the hill was so steep, and the traction so poor, we were wedged on the tree. I couldn't actually reverse it out of there. So, yeah, still kind of a dead car. We eventually made it further, only to get screwed over by a coyote in a big two-wheeled moment. Ran wide, clipped a rock, and managed to put it the wrong direction across the road. Yeah, that's not what you want to be doing with your large Bentley. Have a guess what might happen through this next turn? Yeah, too much speed. And we go for another roll in a 180, just to kind of top it all off. I thought I got that corner right. I hadn't quite. I turned in a little too soon, was trying to carry too much speed, and that's going to put it over. And then at the hairpin, I was trying to, just get that little bit more speed out of the run, and turned in a millimetre or two too soon. You clip the inside, and with a car like this that's so likely to roll, you saw I got away with doing that in the Lotus on its final run, but in the Bentley, yeah, you're not going to manage that. So it did take a little while with this car. It was a relatively difficult vehicle to drive down here. It has got some decent turn of speed in it. I mean, down here we're getting up to kind of 70 miles an hour, which is not that far off the McLaren and the Lotus and so on, but the brakes are so much worse. You just have to brake so much earlier. Taking a wider line through there did the trick to stop the car from rolling while maintaining a decent amount of speed. The actual length of the car wasn't too bad. The hairpin wasn't its favourite turn, but as you can see, we got around there without any real problems. Maybe not quite as quick as some cars, but we did get around the turn. More big two-wheeled moments. Normally when you go on two wheels around there, you've had it. Somehow, we were just kind of going slow enough that I could get it back under control. This time the Coyote's not going to screw us over as we come through this corner. More two-wheel moments, and again around the next part of the corner, we managed to deal with a landing quite well there, considering we were well out of position for the jump, but that's just the way that this Bentley tends to go. Again, another decent turn of speed across the high-speed jump there, but the actual heavy landings the car was pretty good at. It was just the cornerings that it didn't particularly like, and then we're coming up towards the really rather bumpy second-to-last turn. Had to be a little careful. It's not the bumps that were the problem with this car, is it going up onto two wheels. I have seen cars roll around that second-to-last corner, so had to be careful there, and around the final turn. Ended up running a little bit wide. I was trying to stop it from rolling, and so ended up out a little bit wide, and in doing so, couldn't quite get the car turned enough. We clipped a rock as we crossed the line, and yeah, that was the Bentley making it down the course. A tougher car, definitely, to drive down the mountain. While the suspension was just about up to dealing with the bumps, its likelihood to roll over combined with the slightly dodgy brakes meant it was a little bit of a handful. Down chiliad on to the times, and it is a pretty damn quick time from the McLaren F1. It is a 1:22.6, puts it into 18th place. It's there with the Lexus LFA, the Lamborghini Diablo. It beats the Batmobile. It's just a tenth of a second down on the Velira, a little bit down on the Cheetah. Interestingly, the Brawler and Insurgent are still right up there at the top with a 21.5, 21.6. A second quicker than the McLaren F1. Just shows you how good those cars are down at chiliad. The Lotus Exige, I was actually expecting a little quicker time from this car. I will be honest, a 1:24.1 puts into 28th place. A very crowded section of the table, certainly. It's the same time as a Sultan RS. It does beat that mighty Peugeot 508. I was expecting the Exige to go a little bit quicker. I think it's twitchiness and its dislike for some of the bumps when you're trying to put power down and so on. I think that's what probably cost the Lotus its time. And the Bentley, it is down towards the bottom. 98th place for the Mulsanne, a 1:35.5. It is 6/10 of a second down on the Windsor. It does beat the Hummer H1 and that Chevrolet Blazer, but the brakes on that thing are awful. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see the Bentley down there. It was a relatively difficult car to get through the course. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. As ever, I will put links to all of the mods that I have used in the description, so you can download them and have a go with them yourself. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.